Why is it still a problem? Everyone has the same tools. I don't think everybody has the same tool. Visually, it looks the same, but when it comes to like how it works, we are not on the same page. Man, you know, I feel a lot of ways right now. A new quality of life feature is coming with the Rashid update on July 24th. After cancelable normal attacks, simply press medium punch, medium kick, classic, or the drive parry button, modern, to perform a drive rush cancel. That's crazy. Also, can we talk about how Rashid did one button? He did one button, he already put the opponent in the corner. Can we talk about that? It's kind of crazy. So this is actually a great quality of life change. I talked about it a little bit. I said like, yo, this is actually really good for people who just want to kind of have fun with the game. Really cool. But competitive side, this is probably going to be a really, really bad and unfun change. I think when people are competing in this game, this change is going to suck. But if you don't compete and you're just playing the game to have fun and you just want to have a blast, I think this is perfect. However, I'm hoping that it is a setting switch that you could turn off and turn on. Personally, for me, I personally wish it was only for modern. But this being on classic is simply, it opens up a lot of things that is very toxic competitively, which sucks because it also opens a lot of things for players that have a hard time doing 6's inputs and things like that, and then now they can actually do the combos. And that's why is it bad for tourney players, you say? Well, the problem is there is a lot of barriers that keep things a bit, I guess, tame. That's the word. So there's a lot of like barriers that allow things to be tamed. And what happens is when you take some of those barriers down, you know, it becomes more crazy than what it actually is. Just think about if Guilty Gear Strive, imagine if RC, you could do it at any point of the game. Imagine like you could just do it. And the barrier they took away was like you need a meter to do it. Aren't top players good with the buffers anyway though? I mean, yes, they are. But the problem is when you let go of that barrier down, it becomes even more easier. Imagine your like percentage of hit confirming. It's like a 70%. It's pretty good. With that ease of use, it definitely shot it up by like 8%. Not only that is the biggest thing, but this also allowed characters to be very strong as well that are already crazy, like Ken. You know, I mean, believe it or not, you had a lot of time to drive rush cancel in this game. A lot of people say it was like tight, but actually it really is. Sometimes you can actually hit confirm if you're really good. There is a window for hit confirming in that game. It's just not as easy as it was in 5. When you forcibly add something that forces things to be consistent outside of like, you know, like input readers and things like that. When you start adding things to make the barrier more like gone, it becomes a stalemate, you know? It becomes like a really bad stalemate. Yeah, it's consistent for us, but that wasn't what the problem was to begin with. You know what I mean? Like, no one was complaining about being inconsistent of like doing off shorts. We all been complaining about how the input direction is. And it's weird to me that they added something that had nothing to do with anything that we were talking about, and yet that problem is still a fact. Removing human error becomes unfun because then the game becomes figured out. Let me ask you this question. Would you pay $70 to sit down, high-level tic-tac-toe game? We all know how tic-tac-toe has already been solved. But just imagine if games were to that point where it was maximally solved, to the point where it was only one way to play if you went second, and one way to play if you went first. Ain't nobody gonna sit there and watch that. And that's actually what's gonna probably happen. It's gonna slow the game down to the point where it's obnoxious. Now, we can all agree that lights are very hard to whip punish. You have to really look for it. Now, let's say, for example, you are a couple of frames off of the light kick and they recover in time, and the parry comes up. That means that they now have a chance to perfect parry. It's a chance. It's a chance for them when their intentions wasn't to try to parry. Their intentions was to try to whip punish or space trap. Now they're getting reward potentially for 2 things. And that's terrible because nobody asked for them. But again, like, if you don't play competitively, this don't matter. So like, this is great. This is why I'm so like mixed on it, because I'm happy that now players could do the combos and things like that. And I think that's great. I'm all for that. More power to that. But to kind of release this, there's so many OSs that is possible. It's going to be crazy, man. And I'm just curious why they're like, what I hope that this is all this could be done is that, you know how like, I don't know if you guys noticed, but you could turn on and off like negative edge. I'm hoping that is a thing that you could turn on and off for medium punch, medium kick, and like you could turn it off and turn it on. And I hope that it's illegal in CPT. Only on classic. Modern, I think it's fine. I mean, yeah, I know they won't ban it, but I was saying if that was a way, if there was a way to balance it, that would be my direction. I'm not saying that they're gonna do it or they should do it. I'm not targeting that aspect because I clarify. I'm like, you know, this is good for you guys. I'm really happy. But at the same time, there is a double-edged sword. Because, you know, now it's kind of like the player's going to have to kind of like deal with this. It's not like pros aren't OSing it already. Does it change the results? Yes. So if you're option selecting it, so the OS, the quote unquote OS that people are doing what we call buffering, what happens is if you OS and you don't do it properly, this is what happens. What happens is, if you dash, obviously, you get hit. So if you mistime it, you get punished for, you know, doing something that's very good. Now, this becomes easy. Literally never this up, ever. It becomes a simple tap, right? Another thing that is also important to keep in mind too, just like that. So you're buffering a light and a person is like, let's say for example, they don't thoroughly punish a light kick, which is not really easy to do. So that means that if you try in your attempt and you miss, you get a potential perfect parry. Actually, characters like this, like Luke, you know, Luke was already really strong because of like a lot of his like space trapping that he could kind of do, where he could like space something automatically and like auto frame traps. Now with this, it became so much more stronger to stop. Now he has this with the parry behind it, and if you're slightly off or you try to delay your button because you're trying to get out of a situation, he gets a perfect parry opportunity. So now that your escape or like error of trying to like get out of situation, the player has less execution to do. So it means that he's not going to have a lot of errors in situations where you're fighting for your life. Are people going to lock in their parries and buffers? I mean, are you technically locking yourself right here? The most honest way you can deal with this is to throw them. You have to hard read that they're going to do it. But then, again, they get just mad. Why is it still a problem? Everyone has the same tools. I don't think everybody has the same tools. Visually, it looks the same. But when it comes to, like, how it works, we are not on the same page. I think anybody could tell you that, like, DJ and, like, Zangief are not using the same tools. Like, this is not going to help Manon. I mean, it's going to help Ryu. It's going to help DJ as if he needed help. I don't even think he needed help. But, you know, voila. Something I didn't know about. They realized I needed help. Like we already was seeing it off medium. We was already seeing it at medium, you know. But now we're gonna be seeing off like this too. I mean, I do agree that having this as a button is nice. It is, but it's kind of broken. Like it's nice. It's a good change to have. You know what I mean? Like I'm not even hating that it's a bad thing. They wanted this game to be like faster, but they just slowed it down in a way where like it's obnoxious. Like yes, most players want the game to be slowed down. We all like the game to be slowed down. But the problem is the way you slow the game down like this becomes more like the percentage of like trying to like stop something that is so strong. It's way more harder to do because of like obviously these buttons are faster, harder to respond to. Now you have to like get closer in ranges to like kind of like stop it, or you just don't. But it becomes like a Fisher Price game, you know. So it just really like it's very toxic change. I'm really sad to be honest, because I'm sad because this is really good for players that like. I'm gonna be honest. I even dropped like the dash inputs off of like buttons. Like, don't worry, I also dropped. But I know there's a lot of people that can't do it, this is understandable. And now they made it where you can do it. So they didn't buff checking DR at all. All they did was just make like pressing the attack button and not making any errors behind it. That's all it really did. Because if you're checking the dash, a drive rush, if you miss, it doesn't matter if the change was there or not. You ain't getting anything. If you hit them, then you get the dash. And there needs to be a work put into consistency. I think the problem with stuff like this makes strong options easily accessible. Yeah. And then this is the problem. It's like when they make something strong accessible, you know what they're gonna do? They're gonna nerf what's strong. And then the game's not gonna be funny. It is okay to have strong. What's not okay is making something that revolves around something very strong more accessible, because then they're going to be like, well, we have to nerf the jabs because we went this direction, so we have to take these things away. And it's like, you didn't have to do that.